Come on. Yes. So welcome everyone to Buddhism for Beginners, session 2. I think it's almost 7 o'clock. It does say 7 o'clock on my phone, so we'll make a start. My name is Aleta. Did I say that? And if you would like to indulge, just put your name in the comment bar. That would be very nice for me. And we normally start with what I like to call an arrival meditation. I'm just seeing Crystal and Vince are in the house. Hi, Crystal and Vince. It's lovely to have you here. And I hope you're ready to meditate, and I hope you've got your beginner's minds with you, as I do. If we have a beginner's mind, then we're much more open to learning. Suzuki Roshi said that in a beginner's mind there are many possibilities, whereas in an expert's mind there are few. So we aim to have an open mind, a beginner's mind, so that we may pick up just something useful to help us to lead a more happy and meaningful life. So we will start with our brief meditation to help us to transition from what may have been a busy, stress-filled day. We just give our body and our mind an opportunity to let go of what came before, to let go of anything we've been worried about, any to-do list, any thoughts of the future. We can just place these things aside just for the next hour and a half. We can always pick them up again at the end of the session if we wish. So just allowing the body to get into a comfortable position, aiming to have our spine as straight as we can comfortably manage. Feet should be firmly planted on the floor if you're sitting, or you may be kneeling, you may be lying down, whatever position is more comfortable for you. When the body is relaxed, it's easier for the mind to follow. And the eyes can be closed, which helps to not be distracted by visual things around us, just slightly, just as if you were looking at a spot on the floor, a meter in front of you, if you're sitting. And then allowing the breath to flow into its natural rhythm. And just feeling the points of contact of our body with that solid, secure surface holding it. Having a sense of being held, being safe. And just for a moment, thinking of our personal motivation for being here tonight to listen to a bit of the Buddha's teachings, to hear about Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist tools, seeing if we can develop a positive motivation for being here. And then we can maybe expand that positive motivation out so that anything we may hear which may help us to be a more wise, more kind person may help not just us, but all those who come in contact with us to be happier, wiser, more compassionate people as well. And we could even spread that motivation out to help all beings to be more wise, more compassionate, resulting in a more peaceful and just world without judgment, just aware of how it is right now. If you notice any areas of tension or discomfort or pain, just imagine that you could breathe into those areas. As you breathe into those areas of discomfort, imagine the breath suffusing the area with your loving concern for yourself, looking after ourselves. And as you imagine breathing out from those areas, imagine letting go of the tension or the discomfort. Just imagining letting go with each out breath. Now, just gently placing our attention on the breath, wherever we notice the breath the most in this moment. It might be at the nostrils or on the upper lip. It might be the rise and fall of the chest or the rise and fall of the belly. Or it might be the complete wave-like flow of the breath. Wherever you notice the breath the most in this moment, just gently placing the attention there. And just observing each in and each out breath. And when you notice that the mind wanders from the breath, maybe you're aware of thoughts or sensations or sounds. Whenever our attention wanders away, just acknowledging that our attention has wandered, and again. When we notice that we're distracted by thoughts, just gently labeling mentally, thinking, and then gently bringing the attention back to the breath. When thoughts arise, we don't have to follow them. We don't have to clutch onto them. We can just notice that they arise and then they fall away again if we let them. Each time you notice you're distracted by a thought, just gently label thinking and just bring the attention back to the breath. And remember that we have an attitude of gentleness and kindness to ourselves. We're not beating ourselves up because we have thoughts, because we have a busy mind. We're just becoming aware, just noticing the thoughts, labeling them, thinking, and gently coming back to the breath. Now just noticing the state of the body in this moment. Noticing the state of the mind in this moment. There's no right or wrong, it's just your experience. Becoming aware of the places of contact of our body with that secure, safe surface holding it. Noticing the touch of our clothes on our skin and the air on our skin. Noticing the noises inside the room. The noises outside the room. When you're ready, feeling joyful and relaxed, gently open your eyes and have a stretch. very interesting to just notice thoughts as they arise. And it's interesting to notice that we don't have to follow the thoughts. We can just label thinking and let the thoughts just fall away. And they will if we don't cling on to them. And this is a really, really helpful thing to learn. It can help us with many challenges, many problems in our daily life, to know that we don't have to follow the thoughts. We don't have to go over and over and over the same thoughts again and again and again. If we wish to, we can just let the thoughts arise and fall away. So, this course, Buddhism for Beginners, covers some of the key Buddhist topics with a practical approach so that we can start to use the Buddha's methods to help us in our daily life right now. It's not just intellectual blah, blah, blah understanding, as Lama Yeshe says. The Buddhist tools are meant to be useful. They're meant to be helping us right now in our daily life. Hi, John. Welcome. And it's nice that you all know each other. It makes me feel like it's just like being at VI and having my own little interaction with my friends and teachers. Did you do the meditation, John, or did you come in after that? I hope you got to meditate, or I hope that you're already in a more settled state of mind than I may have been. Okay, so last week we talked about a Buddhist being an inner being, focused on our inner reality. We're looking for solutions to our problems in life by training and transforming our own mind rather than trying to change everything out there, because we all know that often we can't do much to change external circumstances and conditions. We can see that with this pandemic. There's not a lot we can do by ourselves, eliminate that virus, but we can work on our mind, the way we respond, the way we view things. And I know that Crystal and Vince and John all have this type of attitude now, that you do look at how you can transform the way you look at helpful. I think that's what is so great about Buddhism, that you can start applying so many little tools to help yourself to be happier, to help yourself to have a more meaningful life right from day one. You know, they're not, a lot of these tools and methods are not rocket science. They're very clear and simple to understand. And it's just a matter of putting them into practice and developing new habits. That's the trickier part. But it's just like riding a bike. The more we do it, the better we get at it. So we just keep practicing. So tonight, well, we're following on from a little of what we talked about last week, which was refuge. I said that last week a Buddhist takes refuge in what we call the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which I will go into more detail about shortly. But last week I suggested that it was very helpful to reflect upon what we currently try to seek refuge in, because it's not just Buddhists that seek refuge, that seek safety from suffering. We all do that just naturally. We look for safety and comfort when we're suffering, when we're disturbed. We're always looking for sources of refuge. So we did a little meditation or reflection last week, just thinking about what sorts of things we look to when we're trying to find protection or safety. And I also suggested that during the week, it would be very helpful to just notice through daily life, particularly when you've got challenges and problems, what you go to try and make yourself feel better, to try and make yourself feel safer. So some of the common things that people look to for refuge are things like eating, and that's a big one of mine, particularly chocolate. I look to for refuge. Sleeping, alcohol, drugs. What else? There's some of the things that we don't ordinarily think of, but we actually go to for refuge a lot, are things like blaming other people for our suffering, types of attitudes where we're thinking, poor me, I don't deserve this, it's not fair, all these types of what we think, the way we think, which is actually a way of us seeking to feel more safe, if that makes sense. And again, I wish you were here to discuss this with me because I get so much more out of it. And I have to talk more this way when I don't have my students to give me feedback and questions, and I'm pretty lazy. So maybe that's one of the things I seek refuge in, is being lazy and relying on other people too much. That's probably is something that I seek refuge in. This is natural that we look to different things to help us to feel more safe, to comfort us when we're challenged, when we're suffering. But a lot of these things that we seek refuge in presently are really not that helpful. Maybe some of them are. What is useful is for you to reflect and examine what you seek refuge in, and then question, is it a reliable source of refuge? Does it really help me? Does it help me to feel happier, feel safer? Does it help me to evolve or grow as a person so that the next time this sort of a challenge comes about, I'll be able to face the challenge better? This is what Buddhism is all about. It's questioning what we're doing. Is it helping us? Is there a better way? And then the Buddha has given us some methods and tools which he suggests that we could check out and see if these ways may be better than the current methods that we're using to help ourselves to be happier, if that makes sense. So a lot of these things that we look to now for refuge seem to me to be more like temporary distractions. watching TV, going out, all sorts of things. John says it does make sense. That's good. It makes sense to me too. Yeah, a lot of what we do, the mindless eating of chocolate that I do, it's all just a distraction and it really doesn't help me at all. Maybe there's a little bit of pleasure there, but it really doesn't help a lot with the problem that I'm suffering. And a lot of these things actually have side effects which are not good. Too much chocolate is not really good for my health. Um, and there are things like a lot of people go to alcohol or drugs, which could be even more dangerous for our well-being. So they're not reliable sources of refuge. Buddhists take refuge in what are called the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And the Buddha says that this can provide a more reliable direction, a path towards ultimately perfecting our mind, having lasting happiness. But in the meantime, ourselves to have a more meaningful life. They're much more reliable than eating chocolate or drinking alcohol, I think. So these three jewels, the first one is the Buddha. Let me just say, first of all, there are outer and inner aspects of each of these three refuges. So the outer refuge serves to help remind us of our inner refuge. So we're not just worshipping idols out there. The outer refuge is to help us to develop our own potential, to be able to look after ourselves, to solve our own problems, to have confidence that we can help ourselves. We can be our own refuge when we use these Buddhist tools. And ultimately, we can fully awaken, we can perfect our mind, developing all our positive qualities to the utmost and eliminating all the negative qualities so that we can be a Buddha ourselves, which just means that we have perfected our mind, we have awakened. So the Buddha, the first jewel that we take refuge in, tools that we can use to go on the path to perfecting our own mind. And the historical Buddha of this world is Shakyamuni Buddha, who is like just on top of my head here, which is lovely. Shakyamuni Buddha was born about 550 BC in a small village in Nepal called Lumbini. He was born a person just like us, just an ordinary man, and through working on his own mind, he managed to perfect his mind and to become fully awakened, to become a Buddha. So because he positive qualities of mind to the utmost, he has the experience, he can show us how to do it. And he gave us tools were passed to students who passed them to their students who passed them on to their students, and it's come down via a reliable lineage to us today, which is just wonderful. We're so fortunate to have these teachings, I think. So that's the outer aspect of the Buddha jewel. And the inner aspect, the inner refuge, is we can take refuge knowing that we each have the potential to become a Buddha ourselves. We each have the potential to perfect our own mind. And once we do that, we can help every other being to perfect their minds, to have an end to their suffering. So the second jewel is the Dharma jewel, which is the actual refuge. This is the teachings of the Buddha, which are the tools, the methods to train the mind, to lessen suffering, and ultimately to awaken ourselves. So that's the outer aspect of the Dharma jewel. We can also take refuge in the inner Dharma, which is our own wisdom and realizations. It's being able to distinguish what's true from what's false, what's right from what's wrong. It's our virtue. It's us being able to refrain from harming others and harming ourselves. With confidence in this, then no external worries or internal delusions can harm us. So we're having confidence in our inner ability, that we know right from wrong, that we can teach ourselves, that we do have wisdom. Just looking at the comments. Vince eats cookies non-stop. Yeah. Eating's a big one for me, Vince. It's not just you. So the third jewel is the Sangha jewel of refuge. The Sangha are the helpers, the teachers. So it's the spiritual community of lamas, monks, nuns, lay teachers, and it's also our Dharma friends. It's people who are a good influence on us, leading us in the right direction, if that makes sense. The people who inspire us to be a better version of ourselves, to put effort into trying to be the best we can be. That's the inner Sangha. No, it's not. It's the outer Sangha. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. They're all our friends and the teachers. They're the outer Sangha. The inner Sangha is what assists us in our own practice. It's our determination, our aspiration, our goal of Buddhahood, and it's the guidance and help that we can also give to others. So that's the inner aspect of the Sangha jewel. So these three jewels of refuge give guidance and protection to reveal our inner potential. That's nice, isn't it? They give guidance and protection to reveal our inner potential. I like that. So the three main reasons that cause us to take refuge: fear of suffering and dread of continuing the way that we are. That can be a cause for us to seek refuge in the three jewels. Faith and confidence in the ability of the three jewels to guide and protect us can cause us to seek refuge. And compassion for all sentient beings, the wish to help them the best way that we can also be a cause for us going for refuge to the three jewels. By taking refuge, our path becomes clear. We can progress in becoming a better person. And we stop creating the causing in the right direction. When we don't overly concentrate on the faults of others, when we don't keep blaming others for our suffering, when we realize that it's our mind that is responsible for our suffering and our happiness, and we realize that that's our responsibility. It's up to us. Does that make sense? I think it does. But these are all things that you have to check out for yourself. You have to really reflect on them, think about them, and really see if they resonate with you, if they ring true. So, there are different levels of happiness goals that we can strive for if we're going to commit to practicing Dharma. Different levels of happiness goals. The first is no more suffering in this life, interested in this life. But this is fine if that's what you decide you want. If you just want to have a happy life and not think about what happens after that, that's fine. There are so many Buddhist tools that we can use to help us to be happier in this life. A big one is thinking of others instead of just ourselves. Instead of putting ourselves first, we cherish others, and this is definitely a cause of happiness in this life. So the second level of happiness goal is when we are on the spiritual path, and the minimum we're aiming for is to be no worse off in a future life. So we would like to have a happy life next life, or future life. We don't want to be worse off. We're aiming for that. So we can use Buddhist tools to aim for that, to get a good rebirth next time and in the future. The third level of happiness goal is individual liberation. So here we eradicate the source of our dissatisfaction or suffering. We eliminate our confusion and disturbing states of mind so that they never come back. We purify and remove all ignorance, delusion, and disturbing emotions. We remove their causes and their stains on our mental continuum. And we experience an end to all our suffering. So this is individual liberation, or nirvana is another word. And then the fourth level of happiness goal is Buddhahood, or full enlightenment. This is becoming enlightened with the of happiness for them to become enlightened themselves. So we wish to become enlightened to help everyone else, every other being, to become enlightened. And when we reach this goal, we can effortlessly and spontaneously help all others to become free from suffering and achieve happiness. So we can't do it for them, but we can help them. So this is an extremely big goal to have that you can. So we can have all these goals simultaneously, that's a hard word, or we can progress from one level to the next. We take our choice. And we all have the potential to do this. We all have the potential to become fully enlightened. This is our Buddha nature. All sentient beings, all beings that have a mind, have this same potential as us, which is a really nice thing to remember when you have trouble and challenges with other sentient beings, remembering that they all have the potential, same potential as us, to perfect their mind. And they're just, if they're causing problems for others, then it's just out of their ignorance, their own suffering. They just want to be happy the same as us, and they have the same potential, and they're just acting mainly out of ignorance if they're trying to harm others. That's something really helpful to remember as well. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it's helpful. Just keep remembering. So, why aren't we enlightened now? Why haven't we got a perfect mind now? Why do we have confusion and suffering now? The mind is presently obscured by the pollution of ignorance, like pollution in a sky. Pollution does not fundamentally change the light and clarity of the sky, and it can be in life. We don't have to identify with the pollution or the clouds. We can identify with the clear, vast blue sky of our mind. If we eliminate disturbing states of mind and develop our qualities of wisdom and compassion and our ability to help to the utmost, so all these confusions, delusions, ignorance, they're not part of our innate nature. They're just like pollution, which can be eliminated. You need to think that you need to become a Buddha, and that's all there is to it. Remember that the Buddhist supermarket is very large. You don't have to have that biggest goal right now. You can take whatever tools that you like from the supermarket shelf, which will help you right now to be happier. And you can always go back shopping at a later date, and you might decide to take some more tools, and you might work your way up to that big goal. Or not. You're the boss of your mind in Buddhism. And even if we don't want to put in all the effort right now to become enlightened, it's nice to just have that thought that we do have the potential there to become a Buddha, to perfect our mind. It's a nice thing to have on the back burner. And we can just strive to be a better version of ourselves. We can strive to be a better version of ourselves to help one person we can have any level of goal that we want. Okay, so working with the mind in Buddhism, one of the most important tools is meditation. The Tibetan word for meditation is gom, which means to become familiar. So in meditation, we become familiar with our mind. At the moment, a lot of what goes on in our mind, we're totally unaware of a lot of the time. Well, that's me anyway. Maybe you're more aware. But with meditation, we get to know the mind more. We get to observe what's happening in the mind. In that little meditation that we did at the beginning, we were just noticing when the mind was thinking, and we just labeled it thinking and then came back to our breath. So, this is really, really useful when we have problems, when we're suffering with agitated, disturbed mind, with negative emotions. If we can just notice thinking and let go, not grasp onto those really disturbing thoughts or emotions that we're having, that's happiness. And it's not going to happen straight away that you're able to just let go of negative thoughts like that. But again, it's just like riding a bike. The more you meditate, the more you become familiar with your mind, the happier you're going to be, the more developed your mind is going to be, the wiser you're going to be. So we all meditate naturally all our lives. It's not something which is really beyond anyone to be able to meditate and to focus the mind, to notice what's going on in the mind. Some of the things that we naturally meditate on are, I see my kids playing computer games, and I can see that they are really absorbed, really focused and concentrated when they're playing computer games. That's like meditation. Going to the gym, Vince, working on your body, building muscles. I see people and can see that they're meditating when they're doing that. They're really focused. They're directing they have an object of their meditation, which is to do those exercise or build those muscles, and they're able to focus and concentrate on that. It's meditation. Oh no, gym. Don't you do home gym? My kids have all got their resistance bands and those weights and things that they don't you do that, Vince? And you'll get back to gym. Everything is permanent. Are you too lazy? Me too. That's all right. That's just an unreliable refuge that we're going to. That's okay. Other things that we meditate on are when we're thinking about something that happened that was unfair or that disturbed us, and we just go over and over and over it again and again and again. That's like meditation. We're focusing on our mind on a topic. So we all have the ability to meditate, and we can develop a practice of meditation where we're focusing on more beneficial objects, training the mind to let go of delusions, training the mind to develop more compassion, more loving kindness, more equanimity. We can have many different worthwhile objects of meditation. We can do mindfulness meditation so that we do become more aware of what's going on in our mind, the way that we're thinking. And this helps us to transform the way we look at things and the way that we think. So we start to be able to create more helpful habits, more helpful patterns of thinking if we're meditating to train our mind in that way. So meditation doesn't necessarily mean sitting cross-legged on a cushion. Lama Yeshe said that simply observing how your mind is responding as you go about daily life, walking, talking, shopping, whatever, can be a perfect meditation and bring a perfect result. When you watch your own mind properly, stop blaming others for your problems. You recognize your mistaken actions come from your own deluded mind. That's what it's all about. That's where the workshop is, I would say. Pema Chodron, who is another favourite Buddhist teacher of mine, says meditation practice awakens our trust that the wisdom and compassion that we need are already within us. It helps us to know ourselves, our rough parts and our smooth parts, our passion, aggression, ignorance, and wisdom. The reason that people harm other people, the reason the planet is polluted, and that people and animals are not doing so well these days is that individuals don't know and trust and love themselves enough. I think that's a really interesting thing to reflect upon. Could that be the reason for all the problems in this world? That people don't know and trust. I'm becoming more trusting of myself. I'm loving myself more, and I can see that it's helping me in all sorts of different ways. So I think that's pretty valuable. I think a lot of people are too hard on themselves and they don't nurture and love themselves enough. So let's practice that this week as well. I need to keep an eye on the time as well. Okay. So developing and maintaining a meditation practice are like developing a regular gym routine, which we can't do at the moment, Vince, but you remember what it was like. If we're out of shape for a while, we might get sore muscles when we start going to the gym, and we might notice how unfit we are. This can happen with a new meditation practice as well. We often notice how busy our mind actually is when we start to meditate, and sometimes people will give up at that stage thinking that their mind is hopeless, it's too busy, it's too racy, they're never going to be able to meditate. This is just like going to a gym and being sore the first few weeks and saying, that's it, I'm never going to be fit, I'm never going to build my muscles. We've got to be practicing with not too high expectation. We've got to realise that we're going to probably find it more difficult in the start of our practice and not give up have some consistency, lower our expectations a little bit, um, go easy on ourselves, don't push too hard. So it's much better to develop a consistent practice of maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day of meditation rather than doing an hour once a week. So you just develop your meditation practice to suit your schedule, to suit your life. You do what you can where you are now. You tailor it to suit you the best way possible. So we don't overdo it. We don't be impatient because it takes too long to see results. And remember that if you're developing a gym routine, you probably have a personal trainer or you go to people for advice about how you build up muscles. We should do that in meditation as well. If we have questions or we're finding that we're not knowing how to improve our practice, if we're finding obstacles to meditating, then we can go and ask a meditation teacher or an experienced meditator for help and suggestions. And we're so fortunate that at VI there are really wonderful meditation teachers there, Dharma teachers, and if you can ring, I don't know what hours the phone is manned these days, but I'm sure you can leave a message, and I'm sure that one of those teachers would be happy to get back to you if you ever need some suggestions or advice for your meditation practice or with any Dharma questions. And remember that physical fitness helps us not just while we're at the gym, it helps us all the time. So the same is with our meditation practice. It doesn't just help us when we're meditating, it helps us through our daily life. It helps us all the time if we meditate. And if you have any questions, feel free to question in the comment bar and I'll try to address them or ask someone else if I don't know the answer. So there are two main types of meditation: placement, or sometimes known as shamatha meditation. This is developing concentration and spaciousness of mind. In this type of meditation, the object of meditation used is often the breath or the body, sensations in the body, or the mind. They're the most common objects used in this placement meditation. The other type of meditation is analytical meditation, where we use reasoning and logic to examine habits and attitudes of our mind, as well as examining the teachings, the Buddhist teachings, to determine whether or not they're true, whether they're helpful to us or not. And we can also examine and understand the way that things truly exist. So these two types of meditation, concentration or placement meditation and analytical meditation, work together to support each other. During analytical meditation, when you reach a point of intellectual understanding, it's then appropriate to let go of the thought process and to focus our attention solely on the associated feelings that arise. And then you arrive at a combined intellectual and analysing. Could be anything. What is the cause of happiness? So we're sort of analysing that in meditation, and then we get some sort of a experiential sort of understanding, and we let go of the analytical thought process. And then we're just using that shamatha meditation, the concentration meditation, to get the experiential feeling of the cause of happiness. Beautiful. So in those student notes, which I think Vince and Crystal and John all have, there's some points, suggestions about meditation. On page 20, they've got some books suggested about meditation. A good one is How to Meditate by Kathleen MacDonald. And it gives you advice on how to start a new meditation practice. Tells you about this traditional 7-point posture, which you may decide to try, or you may decide that it's better for you to maybe lie down or sit on a seat or sit on a stool. You can try different ways, different postures, and see what works best for you. Myself, I started out with the traditional cross-legged posture, but then I had back and neck pain, which made my meditation more about just pain control, pain management, rather than focusing on other objects of meditation. It was all about pain management. And Wai Chong, who was a wonderful meditation teacher at Vajrayana Institute, encouraged me to lie down to meditate, and I've never looked back. I find that lying down to meditate has been so beneficial to me. Wai Chong really emphasizes what he calls a effortless approach to meditation, which is all about being as comfortable as you can be, and focusing on the enjoyment that you get out of meditation. Encourages you to practice meditation more and to get more benefit out of it if you enjoy the meditation. So meditation is not one size fits all. You find what works best for you, and that's why it's really good to be exposed to different teachers, different meditation styles. There's so many apps out there, so much on YouTube and online, and Vajrayana Institute has got so many meditations now each week, which are at our fingertips on our computer whenever we want a guided meditation from an excellent teacher. We can just go to the VI website. We're so fortunate. But try some different styles of meditation, different meditation teachers, and see what works best for you. So we're going to talk a little bit now about rebirth. And again, this is not about getting you to believe the Buddhist view. It's just about helping you to investigate your view on rebirth. So we can reflect upon our current beliefs about what happens after we die. And we can question whether we have a fixed belief in what happens after we die, or whether we're open to investigating whether rebirth makes sense. We can examine if our view is logical, if we should look into any evidence, even if it's just anecdotal, more to help us to develop our view of what happens after we die. The Buddhist view on rebirth is that the mind is propelled at death by karma and attachment to take another body, just like iron filings are drawn to a magnet. At our present level, we don't have any control over the process of where or what form we take when we're reborn. They say it's just like iron filings are drawn to a magnet, we're propelled to our next rebirth. This is different to reincarnation. Reincarnation is where a highly realized being, a lama or someone who has really worked on their mind and has an advanced level of understanding and realizations, they can choose where they will be reborn, and what form they will take. So that's called reincarnation, whereas we don't have control. We're just reborn based on our karma and our attachment. Crystal loves this. I wish you could question and give me input, all of you. That's how I learn so much as well, but I mustn't keep whinging about it. It's YouTube, being able to do this is wonderful alternative, since we need to be in isolation to look after ourselves. It just transformed my view. So we are made up of body and mind, each with its own continuum, changing moment by moment. While we're at death, but the mind continues on to take the next body. And this is more of a stream or continuity of changing consciousness rather than a soul that travels from life to life. So the mind, the I, is changing every moment of this life, and then death is just like another moment of change from this moment to this moment. So the mind that goes on to the next rebirth is, you could say, uniquely related to the mind of this life, or to the me of this life, but it's not the same. But this is just like, I'm not the same person that I was when I was 4 years old. I'm not the same person that I was when I was 30 years old. I'm not even the same person I was yesterday or this morning. We can see that we change each moment depending on our circumstances, depending on what happens to us, on what our thoughts are, on what's said to us, new knowledge that we gain, moods, the roller coaster of life. We change moment to moment to moment. So we're not the same person that we were a moment ago. Do you all agree with that? Come on, give me some feedback. I think that John Vince and Crystal would all agree with that. But maybe you've all left the room, and that's fine. You are the master of your mind. So the mind goes on after death. I won't go into a lot of detail about what happens. There is a transition period between this life and the next life, which is referred to as the bardo, and that can be up to 49 days until we take another body in the next life. Hi, everyone. Karen here with a dodgy net connection. Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. That's okay. Things are changing in every moment. It's nice to meet you. And John says, I agree. I wish and aim to be renewed every single time. Nice aspiration, John. Yeah, that's excellent. So you're aspiring every moment to be a better person in every moment? And John says, hi, Karen. Hi, Vince. Now I feel more like we're a group and we're interacting, which is wonderful. Thank you, people. When he remembers. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We just keep getting back on the horse and getting back on the path that we want to be on to try and be a better version of ourselves. That's what it's all about. So we've got 15 minutes. Okay. So the continuum of body is a physical continuum of matter and energy. The DNA from our parents combine to form an embryo, which grows into a baby, to a child, to an adult, old age, death. At death, after death, the body decomposes and the nutrients re-enter the food chain. So that's the continuum of the body. The continuum of the mind is a mental continuum of moments of mind, always changing. And this continuum carries karmic imprints of our actions from life to life. So again, that's another reason why the person in our next life is uniquely related to this person in this life, because it's our karmic imprints of all the actions that we've done until now are carrying on into future lives. So we're not the same person, but we do have that connection. It's all our actions that are carried as subtle imprints from one life to a next. This is a big topic and we've only got 13 minutes to go, but if you've got any specific questions, you're welcome to ask. So why is it helpful to investigate rebirth? We're not on a spiritual path, as we talked about before, until we're actually motivated by concern for not just this life, but future lives. Whether we are reborn or heaven, if we're Christian, or we have that belief that there's a heaven. This is a spiritual path because we're motivated by more than just this life. Otherwise, it's a worldly path. Investigating rebirth, if we come to a decision to maybe provisionally accept that rebirth could exist, or we decide to take rebirth as our working hypothesis, if we do that, it answers a lot of other questions, like why is there such unjust suffering in the world? Why are our habit patterns so strong? Why certain things happen to us? If we accept rebirth or we use it as our working hypothesis, a lot of the Buddhist teachings really come together and make sense based on rebirth. So we can only really get the full benefit of Buddhist teachings if we, but I'm saying it's helps us to get the full benefit of Buddhism, because without accepting rebirth to good people in this life, if there's no future life, no rebirth, karma doesn't seem to make sense, because people might be doing kind, positive things all their life and they might just be getting really bad rebirth. Then you know that all the positive, kind things that they've done in this life, they are going to get positive consequence. If it doesn't come in this life, it's coming in future lives. So it makes sense. Technical help coming from John. I don't even know what that means, John. Try to select 240p or lower. I've got no idea how to do that. But Karen knows what he's talking about and she'll give it a shot. I hope it works, Karen. So another reason that having acceptance of rebirth helps us is that it helps us to die without fear or regret. We can direct our energy towards creating positive karmic imprints in this life, future rebirths. So we're motivated by compassion and kindness, and we're trying to be the best person we can be in this life, knowing that we are going to get the consequences of that. It's giving us a reason for this life and shoot for that really big goal of becoming enlightened to help all beings, because we've got time on our side. We're going to keep having rebirths. And, there's no hard evidence of what happens after we die. But there is a lot of anecdotal evidence, particularly children often, or there are many children who have memory of previous lives. And this has been investigated by different scientists and psychologists. People have written books about these children who remember past lives and can give all sorts of details of the person they were in a previous life. And it can't be explained how they would know all those details about the person in a previous life. I read some books written by Dr. Ian Stevenson a long time ago. I think it was about 20 years ago, but they were incredible things that these children could not reasonably have known about that previous person that they were. It was really, really interesting. And in the course booklet, there are some books listed there somewhere as well about stories of investigating rebirths. I had the page there somewhere, but I don't know. You'll find it if you look in there. But it's very interesting to read those stories, and it can also give you some confidence that it would be helpful to accept or have an open mind to rebirth and help that to inspire you in this life to create positive causes for good future rebirths. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes. We always run out of time because that's just the way it works, isn't it? So, how do I finish up in 5 minutes? I could speak so much about rebirth. I don't know. I think it's good to explore, to read books about those stories, just to help your mind to, maybe become more confident that rebirth is a viable thing to believe in. Um, Again, I'm not trying to sway your view, but I think the Buddha always says to investigate, check up on everything, never to accept things on face value just because they come from maybe a teacher that you hugely admire, Dalai Lama or whatever. Dalai Lama always says to check everything. You must always check up for yourself whether it makes sense, whether it fits with your life experience. Always check up. This is what Buddhism is all about. So I will finish up with this. If you decide you just don't know on whether you accept rebirth or not, then keep an open mind and continue to investigate. If you're unable to make up your mind, hedge your bets. So the Dalai Lama's advice is to provisionally believe, investigate, and decide using logic. He says if you accept rebirth as your working hypothesis, you will do what you can in this life to create causes for good rebirth, compassion, and virtue. If it turns out that rebirth doesn't exist, then you will have created the causes for happiness now, and you will die with a peaceful, positive mind that you were virtuous and caring in this life. If we don't believe in rebirth and so we don't prepare for our next life, and then we find out there is a rebirth, then we are in big trouble. That's coming from His Holiness. So that might be a good reflection for us during the week. So we will just dedicate all of our efforts of listening to these teachings just to help us to be a kinder, wiser, more compassionate person. And may that help all those around us to be kinder, more compassionate, and wise people as well. And may that even spread out to every being in the world, resulting in a more peaceful world where we all are looking after each other. And thank you very much. And I hope to see you next week. It's been lovely having you. And Sue Jeffries, who pops in at the end of every class to say hello. says hi, Aleta and John. Crystal and Vince are here as well, Sue, so you could say hello to them. And Karen, I'm not sure if I've met you before, Karen. Your name sounds vaguely familiar. Hi, Sue. Thank you, says John. Thank you for being here, all of you. And stay safe and stay in and look after yourself. I was going to put my email address. If you're still there, Karen, and you would like a copy of the course notes, you can email me and I will send them to you. So I'll just put my email address in there and you can talk amongst yourselves. Oh, Karen's a newbie. Good on you, Karen. So you can see my email address there now, can you? Can you see that? Now you can see it, I think. Later it stops. I'm a newbie myself. I get so much out of presenting Buddha's beginner's Buddhism again and again and again. I always learn from it. So I think I have a pretty good beginner's mind, which I'm proud of. So it was lovely to see you all. And I hope I see you again. And I hope when the isolation is all over that we may all see each other and meet Karen in person and check out all those other wonderful teachings at Vajrayana Institute as well. There are so many good teachers there. You can't see my email address, Karen? Can anyone else see it there? It's just 2 comments above yours where it says Vajrayana Institute and it says email acoroneo@hotmail.com. Can people see that? Or have I done something wrong? Sue, are you still there? Can you see my email address? Vince can see it. It's got Vajrayana Institute in yellow. And I'm pointing at it, Karen, as if you can see me pointing, which you can't. Karen can't see it. You can't see Vajrayana Institute in yellow in the comments? 2 above your comment? The others seem to see it and you can't, which is unusual. Very unusual. If you still can't see it, email the Vajrayana Institute. Yeah, that was a good idea, Vince. Or otherwise email the Vajrayana Institute and they'll pass it on to me and I'll send a copy of the notes to you. You're all putting my email address there. So, Karen, can you see the other comments from John and Vince? You got it now. Excellent. Okay. Good night. Stay safe. See you again. I'm not going to blow quick kisses this week. Going to be professional. I'll give a wave. Bye. Like a queen. Bye. Here, got it. Good night. Good night. See, I'd love to see you next week. Bye.